Hi, I want to put together a couple tips that I learned teaching portfolio classes at Pratt and at Parsons in New York. And I also do a mentorship program with Career Foundry, which is kind of like a general assembly, and the certificate courses at Parsons as well. There are many people that come from different fields into UX. When you are going to an art school, you learn many methods to be very creative, but in our portfolio, sometimes we have this problem to condense it to the most important critical thinking methods like a UX have to think more in these flows of users. So both are great, but I think it's also really good to come in from a certificate program. In your portfolio, it's also that you bring the story to the interview, so you want to make sure that all of your portfolio pieces are something that you really like to talk about and probably like to talk quite often. There are many places now you can do research, for example. These are the 4 parts I'm going to be talking about. At first, you're going to research what you can bring into your portfolio, what you need. In the structure, there are a couple things that have to be in there that people are just looking for in certain fields. It's kind of different by region or by field or the type of company that you want to work for. And then there are so many different platforms that you can post these on, but I'll talk about that a little bit at the end. It would be a great idea to do some testing, and since you are in UX, that's part of your field too, you can prove some tools that you learned them. At first, every person has a different portfolio because we are all different personalities, but we also need to find out that we are different companies. Are we going to freelance? Are we going to look for full-time? All of this is going to change the look and feel of your portfolio. So there are different requirements that you have. But what's really boring to look at is if you get 50 portfolios that all have sort of the same template and everyone kind of looks the same and nobody stands out. You also have to think that the first person that will look at your portfolio might not be the people that you're actually working with, but it might be HR or an office administrator. So you want to make sure that they find exactly the keywords that they were asked to look for. And in your portfolio, you should put those pretty easy to find at the very top. So what you can do is some research before you start. And here's one strategy you can do is actually go to LinkedIn, which is the biggest portal for jobs these days, or Indeed as well. But you could look for profiles on LinkedIn that have the title of the job that you're looking for. And then once you find those people, you can look through their career path and see where they worked before. And quite often they also list their portfolio site in the contact information of their profile. So you can look at their portfolio and make a list of all the features that you find are kind of common in this field, that everybody has a case study, or everybody has the about page, or everybody has this kind of video or prototype presentation. So you can get some ideas of what portfolio is out there that got people actually hired. One thing you have to look out for that some people are just too busy at their jobs to update their portfolio. So maybe they don't have a great portfolio. Great designers often don't have a portfolio, or they have it in places that you don't know. They don't show it publicly. Many people have non-disclosure agreements that they cannot show every project, but you still get a general idea with this research. And at this point also, if you have just a bare minimum of a profile somewhere, like your own LinkedIn, or you have just a small portfolio somewhere, you can start hooking up with people in the field of all the companies that you looked at. So you already built your network over the years and become sort of part of being on their radar. You can post articles that you find interesting. You can write blog posts. You can go to meetups and just be visible to some people out there. And in these meetups, you can also find out about jobs before they're even posted, and you can also set up job alerts from companies that you're interested to work for, or fields that you're like to go in and see. You get an update every day or week just to get a feel of how many jobs are out there and what they're looking for, what the descriptions are. I think that would be a good idea just for the research before you start building your portfolio. And this is sort of the structure that this portfolio should have, or I think would be good to have. And you need to make it sort of personal because you don't want to be this like super general person. And you need to reduce it to sort of a small amount. Don't put everything in there that you did because it's going to overwhelm everybody. I think it's more to show you as a person, especially when you're going for a full-time job, because they're probably looking for somebody that they can work with for a longer time. If you're a freelancer, you need to show some cases that you solve because they're most likely going to hire you, the freelancer, to solve a problem that they have in this moment. And you have to show them that you did this. You need to have some kind of proof that you can actually do that because they're probably at that point under the gun to get it finished. But for a full-time person, you can show more of a range and you can show more of your personality because you're going to be like working together for a long time. Maybe your skills are something you can learn along the way. It's also for me more interesting to see projects that are maybe kind of good ideas but don't have to necessarily work, instead of copying or trying to pretend that these were real projects, which sort of makes it look boring to me. And every story should have a hero image, every case study, every project, because the visuals will give us an idea what this is about right away. Instead of having to read a lot of text, it should also have some sort of overview, even an index page. And this is a good opportunity to put in all the keywords that they were supposed to look for. They have to be very high up in your portfolio so that if somebody starts reading, finds them right away and not somewhere down in the bottom when they scrolled forever. You should put in all of the industry keywords. In school, you probably find out what these keywords are, like object-oriented or user-centric or wireframes or flows and things like these words. You have to should sprinkle them in. You can even put some of them into your LinkedIn title description, so when people Google or search on LinkedIn for these job descriptions, you come up in the list already. Instead of just being a plain designer as your title, we can put like quite a slur of words in there. Consistency is also really important in a portfolio. I would suggest that if you have several projects, you pick one style that you're really comfortable with, and then keep this hierarchy. Even make yourself a style sheet for it. Just like have an H1, H2, H3 for the headlines, have a text type, stay on brand with the colors. Make sure that there's no typos, of course. Also stay consistent with the language for the tense. If you write it in the present tense, go through everything and make sure everything is in the present tense. Also the point of view, are you writing from yourself or from the user? Don't switch that around. These are little things that are very important to be consistent in the margins, in the designs, in like correct language. Make sure that it's a written language, not too much of a spoken colloquial language. So these are all little details that are very important on a resume, especially as well. Then I like it when people do their own photos. I think if you have an app, even hypothetical app in your portfolio, you should do a photo shoot and show people how they use it. If it's a cooking app, like go find a nice looking kitchen. If you don't have your own kitchen, ask a friend who has a cool kitchen and do a party and take a photo with every of your friends using, like pretending to use this app. It would look so much more fun that you put this extra effort into it and make it a project than using another stock photo. I think for myself personally, I can tell if somebody took a good picture or not. The same with your profile picture. Go out there, some good daylight photos. That's the best light, not too many shadows and casts. But here's a student of mine. I think she looks so confident. I think somebody will hire her just because that impression comes over in this photo. Don't upload pictures of or JPEGs of your work as pictures with all the text because it will shrink down to a very small size. It will be very hard to read unless you make the resolution very high, and then it will take long to load. So it's much better if you do it on your website as text than uploading a PDF. If you're using tools that are not relevant to your client, make sure that you explain the reason and what this tool does, because even though if they don't know or never used it yet, they might be interested to find out more about it, and it might be actually a good way for you to explain and then do the next project with them. So keep a lot of it explained. Also, animations are great if you can put some prototypes, a little GIF, a little video image of your app in use. It just sprinkles up everything instead of having just text, 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 text. You could have like great icons, you could have a little animation, you could have a good image. You can also, if you're looking for a full-time, it's not a bad idea to have a personal video of how you are, just for a minute or two, explaining what you do and where you came from, what you'd like to be in the future, things like that. And a spoken artist statement, I think it brings over personality. It saves everybody time, because like if you want to apply to 100 jobs, but that's just not the person that they're looking for, then you don't have to go to these interviews. You don't want to work there anyway. So there are many places where you can post your work, and a lot of them are free. If you're just looking for a full-time job, or if you're looking for a full-time job, it's okay to have a free platform to post your work, and then link it in the email so they don't even see, because the free ones usually are, you have to go with wordpress.com/yourname or weebly.com/yourname, or you can do Behance as well. I think that comes free with the cloud, but you can often also in UX Folio, so they have free sites, but then they'll use that name / your name, so you don't have a vanity URL with only your name, which you would have to pay for. But since you're applying only for this one full-time job, I don't think you have to start paying for a large plan or subscribe for a longer time. Little microsites, even Google Docs and Google sites, can be good enough to post your work, and you can even have a YouTube channel. I think I'll bring that up later too. The paid ones, of course, are servers where you can put a lot of files, so you can upload bigger videos. You can have your own name URL, which is usually around $15 to $18 a year, and then you have to have a file server, which is about $10 to $20 a month. Or you can subscribe to services like Squarespace or Wix, and there are a whole bunch of others out there. Like Cargo has really good typography. I think it's very designy, maybe for not so much for UX. There's also UX Folio and Webflow. There are many programmer sites where you can also put it. I think later on I have also GitHubs and things, Stack Overflow and things like that, where you can show your skills and become like just also connect to other people. But Squarespace has a better content management system, the CMS, than WordPress, for example, has, because WordPress is a free application that you can host on any server you want, so you can move it if you're not satisfied with this server, or they raised their prices, or they just weren't very secure. Also have to be sure that you have the HTTPS in there. And with Squarespace, you're kind of bound with them, all that content. You cannot export it to anything, any other platform. And I think over the years it actually becomes kind of expensive, but they do have a much more comfortable content management system. It's much easier to navigate than WordPress. On the other hand, I built everything on WordPress because I'm also interested in coding, and WordPress lets you really go into the code. You can even build your theme from scratch. This is what I do for my job as well. And that gives me all the access that I don't have on Squarespace. There's some code you can tweak or infuse, they call that, but it's not, you cannot build it from scratch, the theme. You have to use somebody else's theme, in danger that everything looks the same. And there are other alternatives these ways. You can have a really active Twitter account. You can put all your stuff on Instagram. You can be on illustrators use Pixiv, or there's Arthouse, I think it's called. You can also have profiles on portfolio sites like Working Not Working on the bottom here, or Coralflot. I had some clients call me from there too, but I haven't really updated those profiles in years, so they might be very outdated by now, which is a problem. Dribble as well can show you work there. When you're all done, you posted it somewhere and send out all the links. You want to see if that's actually working and do some testing. There are sites where you can do the heat map testing, like Hotjar, SmartLook, FullStory.com. They let you do a project for free. You don't have to sign up for it. And it would also show as a UXer that you are familiar with these tools, so you can make that actually a project on your portfolio if you like. It's kind of interesting to see them. You can ask your friends, but it's kind of hard to ask people that have a stake in your development. Don't ask the people that you're actually applying for the job what they think about your portfolio, because they wouldn't really have an honest answer for you. At this point, it might be great to have a mentor that can talk an hour about your work. They are getting paid, but then they will have to actually prepare and really think about it, and they might have a lot of experience of looking at other portfolios. And really, you don't want to hear your friends saying this is great because you already know this is great. You need to find the points that are not great yet so you can improve it. And the portfolio is never really finished, so you can always change and change and change it. Even if you have a job, keep changing it and updating it, because you never know. People change the jobs so often these days that it's always good to have a portfolio ready whenever and at any moment. You can do a little bit of A/B testing, but I'm not sure how much traffic your site will have if the numbers make any sense. But it's kind of interesting sometimes to see on the Google Analytics or Yoast to who is looking at your site and which pages. Can give you some insights. In the end, I think I said networking is really important. If you are already on the radar of people, you hear about these jobs first, and that's how, as a freelancer, I get most of my jobs from other people seeing my work or a friend recommending it to somebody else that they asked about. So if they don't know that you do this, then you wouldn't be on their radar at this point. So it's really important to keep up by posting or being part of the scene or having a lot of Slack channels to be active in, so that people continuously see your name and know that that's what you do and that you're easy to work with and have a few friends in common. I think that would be a great way to get in there. So I wish you all the best luck, and thank you very much.